Hey guys, so today I'm gonna walk you through this little video that I edited together of our trip through Big Bend National Park. And we went on a big road trip basically around the whole country. Big Bend was a stop, maybe days like 4 through 6, something like that. So I'll walk you through it. We came from San Antonio, and it was pretty far out to get to Big Bend. It was maybe like 4 or 5 hours, something like that, pretty far out. And we just drove, and eventually the landscape turned to hills and rocks and weird formations of land and windmills, and all of a sudden it changed. Like, it was pretty flat from Florida all through Texas until we started to get to this area of Big Bend. And when we got here, we got hit with hail, which is something I'm not so used to, and we had to stop for a while. I mean, the hail was coming down. So that was a little obstacle, but it wasn't so bad. I mean, we were worried about the windshield, but the windshield was fine. But yeah, ice cubes falling on us from the sky in the desert, which is really where I would have least expected it. But we got some nice views coming in. I mean, the sun rays coming through. So it was all pretty beautiful. There was some sand blowing in the distance, but all these formations of rock the whole way there. It really started to turn into desert after a couple hours, and eventually the rock just started peeking up from the ground, and we started realizing that we were getting close. We pulled up on a little town called Terralingua, and that's where we set up camp for the night and for the next night, and we caught a beautiful sunset. We set up camp in the wind, and it was our first time setting up camp, so we didn't really know how to go about doing it. So we tied all the rope, and it was very windy, so it was high stress setting up a tent for the first time. And we were out there. After this, camping got a lot easier, but for the first night it was kind of crazy. And there was some rain and a lot of wind. You could hear it just roaring. It roared all night, and it was kind of freaky. And we just kind of, camped through it. You could hear it. And so we woke up pretty early the next morning, made it into Big Bend, into the park, and we caught the sunrise, and it was all pretty beautiful. We saw a coyote. It actually took a shit right in the middle of the road right before that, and we tried to spot it for a little bit. We found out that there was a second, though, so it was cool seeing some animals our first day out there. Just a couple coyotes early in the morning. And the rock just kept peaking up higher and higher and started to really look like mountains. We were debating on whether or not they were mountains. We really couldn't tell. And then we set off on the Lost Mine Trail, which was about 2.5 miles each way, so like 5 miles total, and you started to be able to just see out basically as far as the eye could see over these beautiful valleys, and the rock was pretty amazing. It all looked pretty prehistoric. You can just sort of imagine dinosaurs being there when you look at it. And we just started to go up. We walked for a while. At that point, our first hike, 2.5 miles each way, 5 miles total, seemed pretty daunting, and wow, 5 miles. I don't know exactly how this will go. But as we went on through the trip, hiking got a lot easier. This was the warm-up, though. And this was a pretty amazing hike, honestly, right away. One of the first hikes that we did, it was just pretty mind-blowing to go from the flat land everywhere that we were to seeing these valleys and mountains and rocks. And we went up high, and we went right to the edge, and it's pretty crazy. There were some drop-offs that you look right down and you were dropping 2,000-3,000 feet. We went a little bit off trail, but we just kept going. There were a lot of switchbacks, and we just kept going up and up. In retrospect, it wasn't that long, but in memory, it feels like it was one of the longest hikes. And we just got higher and higher. We climbed up on some rocks and took some pictures. Just admired the view from all the way up there. I think we were at maybe like something like 6,000, 7,000 feet elevation. just kept going. It was a nice hot day. We were all kind of over prepared for this hike, being our first hike, and we didn't really know exactly what we really needed. But this was the peak of it. We got to the top of this rock, and you go up on this rock, and it's literally thousands of feet drop off on all directions, and it was pretty scary, honestly. It was sloped. It was a really amazing view from up there. Like I said, it felt pretty prehistoric. I had a telescope with me to try and spot some wildlife, but there was just so many trees, and we didn't get to really use it. But this picture right there, being up there, scary. One of the only things this entire trip that got my adrenaline going, being up on that rock. Thousands of feet drop off. Veronica had no problem just standing up there. True champ right there. Yeah, we admired the view for a little bit. Big Bend National Park. Look at that. Deep valleys. And compared to other places, I mean, you can really just see out far. Like, there's not so much air pollution that blocks the line of sight. You can see out pretty damn far. And it was really beautiful. Some bluebirds. We're in Texas, so. Big open sky. Some cactus. Long stringy plants, some trees that look like they're straight up out of Dr. Seuss, some cactus, some colorful cactus. And Big Bend just had a lot of giant rock formations jutting out of the ground. This was the start of some crazy blisters that I had throughout the entirety of this trip. These were replicas of fossils, a little bit disappointing because I thought that they actually were the fossils, but apparently there were all these fossils found here. These are the replicas of them. Point is, there was a lot of prehistoric activity here. It was just full of it, and that's pretty cool. You can kind of get the sense of that when you look over it. Some pink cactus. We took a drive to the Rio Grande, and we were going to do the 2 or 3 mile hike along it. And this was it, and this is what it's really famous for, these jutting peaks with the space in the middle. And I slipped here.
My bad.
Slick as hell. But none of this was supposed to be here. This is supposed to be an entryway for the hiking path, and it poured the night before, and this entire place got flooded, so we couldn't get there. It was just totally flooded. But I did dip my feet in it, and it was pretty awesome. We attempted to cross it, and you see how instantly deep it got, and the water was rushing, so we just gave up on that. And we took some pictures right here, and decided to head back. This was all, I believe, formed from some sort of volcanic activity. I don't really know, but there were all these different formations. These, I remember, were called donkey ears. As you can see, they look like donkey ears. It's pretty cool. And just, Big Bend is massive, and you just drive all throughout it, and there's all these formations. Like I said, we camped right outside in the town called Terralingua, and we got some good food. And this was in the back of our camp area. We were told to come out here, and we went to this big empty area. And we just sort of watched the sunset in the big, massive Texas sky. And you could see pockets of rain all over in the sunset. We threw up a drone. We're not in Big Bend National Park, so no worries. We're right outside of it here. And it was so windy. It was just so windy that I'm surprised that the drone worked at all. And some shots of it are pretty shaky, but honestly, they're way better than I would have expected because it was pretty windy. So, all in all, in retrospect, it was really beautiful, and really didn't appreciate it enough in the moment, but it was just all pretty beautiful. These are the drone shots, courtesy of Billy. they're pretty awesome. Like I said, the wind was going crazy. It's pretty amazing that the shot was as stable as it was. But we got one of the best sunsets that we saw. Had to enjoy it. Right next to where we were camping, there was this mountain that just looked real awesome, especially as the sun went down. And we sat outside and wrote, and some coyotes ran right outside Billy's tent right after this, just peeking around. And we went back to the spot where we threw out the drone, and it was just so bright from the moon. We were hoping to see some stars, as Big Bend is famous for, but the moon was just so bright. So we didn't see any stars, but we did see a nice and bright moon, and we looked at it, and Big Bend was pretty awesome. We spent 2 nights there, stayed outside of Terralingua, and had a pretty amazing time. After this, we were on our way to Guadalupe and a whole bunch of places after that. Hope you enjoyed.